Hello and welcome to the CompTIA Cybersecurity Analyst CSA Plus Certification Study Guide. In this video, we will discuss Chapter 6.1 Threat Intelligence. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Threat intelligence is an important tool for organizations defending themselves against attacks. Using TI involves understanding what it constitutes, how it compares to threat data, knowing the intelligence cycle, and understanding its categories of sources and confidence levels. At one time, organizations were reluctant to share information about successful attacks on their assets. Would the release of such information make the organization look bad? Would it hinder ongoing investigations by law enforcement agencies into the attack? Would reporting an attack prompt the threat actors to speed up attacks once they learned how successful they were? Would it warn the threat actors that they have been discovered and cause them to cloak other parts of the attack so they are even more difficult to uncover? Today, it is recognized that the advantages of sharing information outweigh the disadvantages. Organizations are pooling their experiences and knowledge gained about the latest attacks with the broader security community. Making this information available to others can help other organizations repel a widespread attack that they may also be experiencing soon. Sharing this type of information has become an important tool to help everyone shore up their defenses. Threat intelligence, also known as cyber threat intelligence, CTI, is information gathered from a range of sources about current or potential attacks that is analyzed, refined, and organized to create a defensive strategy to minimize and mitigate cybersecurity risks. TI that is collected from various sources and then disseminated to others is known as threat intelligence sharing. In addition to identifying an imminent attack by sharing indicators of attack, IOA, TI sharing can also aid in other areas such as incident response, handling a cyber attack or data breach, vulnerability management, identifying and addressing security vulnerabilities, risk management, controlling threats to assets, security engineering, building systems to resist attacks, and detection and monitoring, uncovering and managing vulnerabilities. What is the difference between data, information, knowledge, and intelligence? Although these terms are often used synonymously, there is significant variation between them. Data is discrete, objective facts. An example of data is 101 700A 701B. Information is organized data that has been processed so it has meaning and value. An example is course 101 700 is offered in the A term. Knowledge is expert skills and experience applied to information in order to make informed decisions. An example is enrollment in CIS 101 700 A term has increased over CIS 101 701 in the B term. Intelligence is administering knowledge so that it is practical. An example is multiple sections of CIS 101 should be offered in the A term. There is a difference between data and intelligence. Unfortunately, the terms threat intelligence and threat data are often erroneously used as synonyms. The difference between them can be illustrated by comparing two different types of weather forecasts. Consider a weather forecast for an entire nation as a whole. It may indicate that a sweeping cold front is on its way within the next several days, resulting in lower temperatures and rain across the country. However, this is of little value when deciding if a coat or umbrella is needed tomorrow, and the cold front could stall out and not even have an effect. What is also needed is localized weather information for the immediate area. This local forecast can give the current temperature, wind speed, barometric pressure, dew point, precipitation percentages, and so on, which can be used to help create a forecast of weather changes and when to best expect these changes. This local weather data is much more useful when planning what to wear or when to carry an umbrella. The National Weather Forecast is analogous to cybersecurity threat data. These threat data feeds provide a high-level view of the wide cybersecurity landscape. For example, it is useful to know that a zero-day vulnerability has been uncovered in a specific software package. However, if that software is not used by the organization, then it is of little value. Also, knowing which threat actors and attacks are currently active is useful. But if these threat actors are targeting sectors other than that of the organization, such as targeting schools while the organization is a manufacturing plant, the value of this threat data is again limited. Threat data, while useful like a national weather forecast, lacks the local specificity needed to be helpful. TI, on the other hand, is threat data that has been refined to a localized situation that then produces actionable steps. Cybersecurity threat data comes from a variety of sources: sensors, malware analysis platforms, vendors, and so on. It provides raw data, such as hashes, IP addresses, and malicious URLs, that an organization can then import into their own cybersecurity tools. By using automation technology along with human analysis, an organization can turn threat data into TI and then share it with similar organizations. The process through which threat data becomes useful TI is illustrated by the intelligence cycle, also called the threat intelligence life cycle. Figure 6.2 illustrates the intelligence cycle. This cycle is considered a multi-step cyclical process. There is more than one step involved, and the process continues to cycle with no endpoint. A multitude of intelligence cycles relate to cybersecurity, each with any number of steps using different terminology. The intelligence cycle presented here is the core of most intelligence cycles. The steps of the intelligence cycle are requirements. This involves determining the information assets and business processes that need to be protected, the potential impacts of losing those assets or interrupting those processes, and the priorities in what order to provide protection. This phase helps determine the types of TI needed to protect assets and respond to threats. For example, if a goal is to understand likely threat actors, this could be framed as the question, which actors on underground forums are actively soliciting data concerning our organization? Collection. Collection is the process of gathering information to address the most important intelligence requirements. There are numerous sources of this threat information. An organization can gather log information and metadata from internal networks and security devices by conducting targeted interviews with knowledgeable security sources, scanning security news and blogs, harvesting information from user forums, scraping attacker data posted on public sites called pastes, and even infiltrating threat actor closed sources. Increasingly, organizations are subscribing to threat data feeds from industry organizations and cybersecurity vendors for TI. Analysis. The data gathered at the collection stage typically will be a combination of finished information, such as intelligence reports from cybersecurity experts and vendors, along with raw data, like malware signatures or pasted leaked credentials. This data must be processed into a format usable by the organization in the analysis phase. Different collection methods often require different means of processing. For example, an analysis may involve extracting IP addresses from a security vendor's report or extracting indicators from an email before enriching them with other information. Dissemination. The results of the analysis phase will drive decisions about how this information should be acted on and distributed to where it needs to go. Dissemination. Typical decisions involve whether to investigate a potential threat, what actions to take immediately to stop an attack, such as communicating with endpoint protection tools for automated blocking, how to strengthen security controls, or how much investment in additional security resources may be needed. These decisions then drive how the TI is disseminated. Feedback. The final phase is feedback regarding how effective the TI was. Feedback can be viewed as answering the basic question, what did we do right and what did we do wrong? The answers then become input back into the requirements phase to improve the overall intelligence cycle. Most organizations have multiple security-related teams that need TI. The process of dissemination should be determined in advance by asking the teams how best to provide the information to them. There are several questions that could be asked. What TI do they need? How can external information support your activities? How should the intelligence be presented to make it easily understandable and actionable for you? How often should we provide updates and other information? Through what media should the intelligence be disseminated? There are two broad categories of TI sources. These are open source and closed source intelligence. Open source intelligence TI that is freely available, called open source intelligence, OSINT, has become a vital resource. This information is often collected and then disseminated through public information sharing centers. Multiple open source sources provide valuable information to cybersecurity professionals. Some of the most prominent include Computer Emergency Response Team, CERT. The Department of Homeland Security, which is responsible for protecting the nation's critical infrastructure from physical and cyber threats, maintains the U.S. Computer Emergency Readiness Team, CERT. By coordinating national defense against and response to cyber attacks, CERT is responsible for analyzing and reducing cyber threats and vulnerabilities by disseminating cyber threat warning information. CERT collaborates with federal agencies, the private sector, the research community, state and local governments, and international entities. It analyzes incidents reported by these entities and coordinates with national security incident response centers who then respond to incidents on both classified and unclassified systems. One of the primary roles of CERT is to distribute reasoned and actionable cybersecurity information to the public. Cybersecurity Incident Response Team, CSRT. The Cybersecurity Incident Response Team, CSRT, provides services regarding cybersecurity intelligence to any user, company, government agency, or organization. As a single point of contact for reporting computer security incidents worldwide, CSRT acts as the clearinghouse that provides the means for reporting incidents and for disseminating important incident-related information. Because organizations share in the responsibility of coordinating their response efforts with similar institutions, CSRT facilitates gathering intelligence information from all sources and providing it to other similar organizations. CSRT is a privately held company that began business in 2001. Deep Dark Web. The Deep Dark Web, considered to be part of the World Wide Web, is the domain of threat actors and is beyond the reach of a normal search engine. Using special software that masks the user's identity allows for malicious activity such as selling drugs and stolen personal information and buying and selling malicious software used for attacks to take place. Some security professionals and organizations use the Deep Dark Web on a limited basis to look for signs that information critical to that enterprise is being sought out or sold. Threat maps. A cybersecurity threat map illustrates cyber threats overlaid on a diagrammatic representation of a geographical area. Figure 6.3 illustrates a threat map. Threat maps are promoted as helping to visualize attacks and provide a limited amount of context of the source and the target countries, the attack types, and historical and near real-time data about threats. Although threat maps may look impressive, in reality they provide limited valuable information. Many maps are simply a playback of previous attacks, and because threat maps show anonymized data, it is impossible to know the identity of the attackers or the victims. As a result, many cybersecurity professionals question the true value of threat maps. File and code repositories. Another source of TI is file and code repositories. Victims of an attack can upload malicious files and software code that can then be examined by others to learn more about these attacks and craft their defenses. Often samples of recently discovered malware variants are uploaded to malware aggregation repositories, along with published detailed malware analysis reports, MARS, containing IOC for each malware variant. Public vulnerability databases. A vulnerability database is a repository of known vulnerabilities and information as to how they have been exploited. These databases create feeds of the latest cybersecurity incidences that can be downloaded in a variety of different formats, such as comma-separated values, CSV, or JavaScript Object Notation, JSON, for input into security appliances. Common cybersecurity data feeds include vulnerability feeds that provide information on the latest vulnerabilities and threat feeds that outline current threats and attacks. There are other open-source methods and sources of relevant information. These include social media, websites and applications that enable users to create and share content, blogs, posts and comments created by authors and organized into categories, forums, topics and comments created by members organized into different subforums, and government bulletins, an official publication from the federal government. Finding information on the deep dark web is difficult. First, it requires using Tor or IP2, which prevents a device's IP address from being traced. Second, although there are some deep dark web search engines, they are unlike regular search engines like Google. The deep, dark web search engines are difficult to use and notoriously inaccurate. One reason is because merchants who buy and sell stolen data or illicit drugs are constantly on the run, and their dark websites appear and then suddenly disappear with no warning. Finally, Deep, dark websites use a naming structure that results in dark website URLs such as P6F47S5P3DQ3QKD.onion. All of these are hurdles that keep out anyone who does not understand these inner workings. One of the challenges of OSINT is that because it comes from a variety of sources, the data may be in a variety of formats. To overcome this challenge, OpenIOC, Open Indicators of Compromise, was developed as an open framework for sharing OSINT in a machine-readable format. The data is formatted in the Extensible Markup Language, XML, and comes with 500 predefined base indicators, which can easily be customized for adding additional intelligence. An example of an OpenIOC feed is shown in Figure 6.4. Closed source intelligence. Closed source intelligence is the opposite of open source. It is proprietary, meaning that it is owned by an entity that has an exclusive right to it. Examples of closed source intelligence include internal sources. Some TI data can be extracted from an organization's own security devices, internal sources, such as a firewall log that captures the external IP addresses of a threat actor attempting a brute force attack on passwords, or a spam filter that can identify emails that contain a phishing URL. These IP addresses and URLs can then be fed into the organization's CM tool or an IDS to protect against attacks. Paid feeds. Because they are the result of only the attacks that the organization has witnessed, internal sources are localized TI data that is a small fraction of the total threat landscape. Instead of only relying on their own TI, most organizations pay professional external providers who can provide a broader range of data to reveal patterns and trends. Known as paid feeds, these providers not only send this data as electronic feeds for their customers' security appliances, but they also provide in-depth research. Some providers give specialized services for specific market sectors, such as government or financial services. Information sharing organizations. There are a large number of organizations that share closed-source information, called information sharing organizations. These include the areas of healthcare, financial services, aviation, government, and critical infrastructure. Organizations that are participants in closed-source information are part of private information sharing centers that restrict both access to data and participation, whereas private sharing centers are similar to public sharing centers in that members share TI information, insights, and best practices. Private sharing centers are restrictive regarding who may participate. All candidates must go through a vetting process and meet certain criteria. There are concerns surrounding TI gathered from external sources, either open source or closed source. To what degree can this data be trusted? Is it applicable and helpful? Relevancy? Is it correct and free from errors? Accuracy? Together, all these qualities of TI make up the confidence level of the information, or how much trust should be placed in it. In addition to relevancy and accuracy, the timeliness and privacy of shared information are also concerns that impact the confidence level of TI. Timeliness. It is critical that TI be distributed at the right time, which for cybersecurity is as quickly as possible. Information can be of limited value to block an attack if the attack has already occurred. This is known as the timeliness of the TI. To rely on email alerts that require a human to read them and then react takes far too much time. As an alternative, automated indicator sharing, AIS, can be used instead. AIS enables the exchange of cyber threat indicators between parties through computer-to-computer communication and not email communication. Threat indicators like malicious IP addresses or the sender address of a phishing email can be quickly distributed to enable others to repel these attacks. Those participating in AIS generally are connected to a managed system controlled by the Public Information Sharing Center that allows bidirectional sharing of cyber threat indicators. Not only do participants receive indicators, but they can also share indicators they have observed in their own network defenses to the public center, which then distributes them to all participants. There are two tools that facilitate AIS. Structured Threat Information Expression, STIX, is a language and format used to exchange CTI. All information about a threat can be represented with objects and descriptive relationships. STIX information can be visually represented for a security analyst to view or stored in a lightweight format to be utilized by a computer. Trusted Automated Exchange of Intelligence Information, TAXI, is an application protocol for exchanging CTI over Hypertext Transfer Protocol, secure, HTTPS. TACSI defines an application programming interface, API, and a set of requirements for TACSI clients and servers. AIS is used more extensively with public information sharing centers than private centers. A concern about using public information sharing centers is that of privacy. An organization that is the victim of an attack must be careful that no proprietary or sensitive information is shared when providing TI. As a safeguard, most public information sharing centers have protections in place to prevent the disclosure of protected information. An example of the safeguards can be seen in the sharing center of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, DHS, known as the Cyber Information Sharing and Collaboration Program, CISCP. With the DHS serving as the coordinator, the CISCP enables its members, called partners, to not only share threat and vulnerability information, but also take advantage of the DHS's cyber resources. Table 6. 2 lists the privacy protections of the CISCP. Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, CISA, is a federal law passed in 2015 that provides authority for cybersecurity information sharing between the private sector, state and local governments, and the federal government. An example is, CISO requires a non-federal entity to remove any information from a cyber threat indicator that it knows at the time of sharing to be personal information of a specific individual or information that identifies a specific individual that is not directly related to a cybersecurity threat. Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, was passed in 1967 and provides the public the right to request access to records from any federal agency. An example, although federal agencies are required to disclose any information requested under the FOIA, there are 9 exemptions, one of which protects interests such as personal privacy. Traffic Light Protocol, TLP, is a set of designations used to ensure that sensitive information is shared only with the appropriate audience. An example is TLP uses 4 colors, red, amber, green, and white, to indicate the expected sharing limitations to be applied by the recipients. Protected Critical Infrastructure Information, PCII. The PCII Act of 2002 protects private sector infrastructure information that is voluntarily shared with the government for the purposes of homeland security. For example, to qualify for PCII protections, information must be related to the security of the critical infrastructure and is voluntarily submitted and not submitted in place of compliance with a regulatory requirement. The CISCP program is free to join and use. It offers services such as analyst-to-analyst technical exchanges, a portal that can be accessed through which partners can receive analysis of products and threats, cross-industry orchestration in which partners can share lessons learned and share their expertise with peers across common sectors, and digital malware analysis. Those interested must sign an agreement that enables DHS and its partners to exchange anonymized information. If you find this video useful, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. To see more videos like this, please click in the rectangle in the middle of your screen. To see other videos from this channel, please click the circle on the bottom right. Thanks for watching. We will see you on the next one.